as a source of answers, right? Right. It's interesting because the question is almost, are we putting decision makers in a position to get the insights they need? Or are we giving the decision maker the insight they've asked for, right? In the past, it's mostly been constrained to the former. And are we willing to go as far as the latter and say, like, this is our projection on the rough amount of market share Tesla will take in the next 5 years, right? And that's a question frankly, it's a question for Lawrence. It's a question for Jonathan.
Yes.
It's one that we have to answer before we market to our clients, that we provide a market assessment.
So, but is there a world where it's like, I guess, like, because the thing is, we want to facilitate. We want to connect the things, put the things in front of you to make the decision. Could we not own the, I guess to your point, I was going to say, could we not just like lean into the process of it rather than the outcome? But then I think, to your point, it feeds that you're giving an outcome because the process is tried and trusted or whatever. I will say, though, that there is a way, right? There is a way that everyone does research. And actually, you had mentioned the word research. And I wanted to...
You're preaching to the choir, right? I mean, I've been on the other side of this argument for 5 years. I think it's a good idea. But I'll say I've been shot down a number of times.
Right. No, and I think it's good for you to share that with me, because I think it's also David Linsana also has this idea, because that makes sense. I mean, when I used to pitch to clients all the time, and we would always talk about the way that we did things that's unique to us to give you a unique outcome. But this was, very different because it was an advertising agency. So it is like, we lean into your differences, and the way that we do that is it's positioning. But I wanted to ask you also, do you think that our FS clients, when they're going through these processes, do they think of it as research? Or do they think of it as validating? Or do they think of it just as, I know it's kind of inherent in their workflow, but I think of us very much as a research provider. And
that's a great question.
No, we never use that word. We only use it in corp. But it is what we do, right?
Right. That's a great question. I will say, for our financial services clients, the first answer is it does depend a little bit.
Okay.
So, like, right now, we're working on an SP functionally for Goldman.
Yep.
And it is a project for an MD at Goldman who essentially wants Goldman to buy a company.
Okay.
And they're not even, the company's not for sale, right? He's just like, look, I think we can make a big enough offer, we could buy it. So there's no deadline. What he's trying to do is marshal internal opinions to get to buy this company. So, I'm working on putting his research proposal together for him. I have a conversation with a CM who I'm like, I'd really like to staff this guy to your project. And he says, well, I actually talked to that guy, and he has a very negative point of view about the company, right? He doesn't necessarily think this is a good idea. And, I'm like, hey, look, that's why I want to staff him on your project, right? You've come to us. You've said, I think it's a good idea. I want to test it, right?
Right.
And he's like, well, no, hold on.
But it's going to go against his agenda, right?
I want to come out of this with materials that convinced my company this is a good idea, right? Like, I'm all for, and his sentence was basically, I'm all for good research, but let's make sure we're coming at it with the perspective that fits my perspective. So there is a component, right, where it is, in some degrees, it's validation, and that is what it is, and there is a body of that exists. Now, I will say that one of the insights, if I can flatter myself, one of the insights that my coming on to the team 5 years ago brought is that our clients want to be doing research. They really do. And bringing me as, this UT, ABD, research guy into the room with them to talk about, like, hey, let's talk about what you're trying to understand, and let's brainstorm about how we'd attack your project. BD would really, they love taking me on the roadshow for that purpose, because it made the client feel like, wow, okay, I can get creative. I can really attack my research, as opposed to just buy an answer from Credit Suisse.
Right.
So I do think, to the extent maybe our clients don't always feel like they're doing research, I do think that's an aspiration of our clients, which maybe in some ways is even more powerful, right?
Yeah.
To the extent that GLG can take your job from using other people's insights to try to get ahead to actually generating your own and testing your own, I think that's a good, strong thing for most financial services clients at the end of the day. That was a very long answer, but that is to say, some know but wish they could, and then a small percentage yes and very proud of it is probably how I would qualify that.
I wonder whether, because it feels like then it's that we could probably use that word a bit more and just test it. Actually, we should just do some message testing. I don't have any budget for this. But I do think there's something there that's really interesting just in what you've just shared about the aspirational. I think also the word research, there's nothing negative about that word. It is like, it shows that you're very intelligent. It shows that you've done there's almost a scientific approach to it. That I think naturally a lot of the types of people that we service every day want to be the smartest person in the room. So I think throwing that out there as a word and a term and associating it with us may actually help to kind of elevate them in some way. I think the other thing that I was thinking of is, I think we hear a lot of the validate, but to your point, I think there's probably some more sophistication to validation that we could lean into. The other word that I think is universal, definitely from, I guess, research, market research, and corp, is the word discovery. And I feel like discovery also works nicely. I don't know. This is what I'm trying to test with you. But when I think of discovery, I think, it's a big enough word. I think everyone can kind of understand it. And it doesn't lean into as much of us being a research provider. Because I think there's a space here, right, where a lot of what David Lansana is leaning into is kind of competing against market research. And I think we have a slightly broader aperture of where we can sit because we are thinking about servicing our financial services clients. And I feel like diligence and discovery, there's a lot, there's those, I don't know. I'm asking you just on the fly because I made a list of these words that might be other things that are research but not as scientific.
Maybe this is too soft of an answer. I had initially a negative gut reaction to the word discovery. I was like, that's too soft, right?
Okay.
Our clients don't want to feel like they're on a fishing expedition.
Okay.
And then I thought about it for just a fraction of a second, and I thought, actually, no, I think that might be wrong. Because I think that you're familiar with the concept of alpha, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that what is alpha if not discovering opportunity, right? And the point is you can do the best research in the world, but if everyone else has the same answer, there's no alpha to it in financial services.
Right.
Right? Where you get alpha is being the only one.
Right.
With that answer.
Right.
Or at least the first one with the answer.
Yes.
Right? So in a discovery framework, right, for financial services, it's discovering opportunities before others.
Yes, it's a race. It's like the old kind of like, I guess the explorers of the old world uncovering Egyptian artifacts and bringing them back home.
Exactly. It's being the first one to discover,
yes.
to discover the opportunity. I think that would resonate quite strongly. As long as you avoid the idea that you're just kind of like out there sauntering around,
yes,
learning things. That doesn't appeal to me.
Because I think the other thing about, our brand positioning is this idea of getting ahead. So this kind of discovery to get ahead quicker than everyone else. I think the word discovery, I used to use it all the time when I built scopes for my clients because I would always have a discovery phase. There would be like initial discovery and that would, you outline it fairly. It's supposed to be broad, but it also gives you time to understand competitive analysis and to know the market scape. And it is essentially a type of diligence, obviously in the space of building towards, I don't know, a user experience or whatever. But